Well, hello, friends. Glad you could join us. Welcome to another edition of the Midwest F1 League. Tonight, Division 1 heads to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Sao Paulo, Brazil, for what should be a fantastic edition of Division 1. Now, first, before we begin, let's go over our starting grid for this Grand Prix. It was a pretty halfway decent qualifying session, and it does begin with Gott Palmer starting on pole by about 2.5 tenths of a second over championship leader race day 2016. Third being Edwin, about 3 tenths. Lancey, 4.5 tenths. Fifth is Reimer, 5.5. Gottney Wiebe only about 3/100ths behind Reimer in sixth. Chuck Blaze in seventh at 692. Sui at 730, 9/1000ths between Sui and Cali Robb for 8th and 9th. It'll be Fire Up Flow starting 10th at, well, that's even less than 2/100ths between Fire Up Flow and Cali Robb. Dusty Lusky will start 11th, 10/1000ths behind him is Shariah Coleslaw in 12th. 13th will be Travis Scott, 14th will be Nikki 64. Identical on time, with last week's race winner, Kate Thomas, at 1.102. Nikki 64 will get the spot, being that he set the lap first. It'll be Gunnar Addy starting 16th and Houdini starting in 17th. Now, if you enjoy statistics like me, if you happen to be a bit of a nerd, here's a couple of nerd statistics for you. 784 days ago, 116 rounds of Division 1 racing. It was Season 7, race number 3 was the last time that Kate Thomas had won a Division 1 Grand Prix prior to last week at Singapore. By the way, last week at Singapore, the Division 1 did try a bit of an experiment. No racing line was allowed for Division 1, and that was Kate Thomas's first win in 116 Division 1 Grand Prix. Once again, 784 days ago. Give or take 7, with now this being the week after. But either way, a huge congratulations for Kate Thomas. By the way, Season 7, I was racing in Division 4 in Season 7. Towards the back half of Season 7, I was then in Division 3. And speaking about Division 3, that's no longer after this season. Midwest F1 will go back down to 2 divisions come Season 14, one of which being Division 1. No assists at all. Similar to what we have now, whether or not the line is there is still in question. But no assists. Division 2 will still be around, and that will be all assists allowed. Formation lap underway. Gott Palmer starting here. Of course, we don't have the, we don't have, at the moment, the, we don't have the championship standings available, unfortunately, at the moment. But, let's have a look at the tires. It appears 5 have gone soft for the evening. It's Gottney Wiebe, Fire Up Flow. Actually, both Willies have gone soft this evening. The Alpine of Shariah Coleslaw, and then 14th and 15th, that time between Nikki 64 and Kate Thomas have both gone soft. Everybody has gone mediums. And I will say, it does appear very gray, very gloomy here in Sao Paulo for this occasion. I'm not sure if there's any rain on the way, but if there were, I wouldn't be too surprised. Only 3 rounds left to go in this 13th Division 1 season. Canada, Japan, and COTA to round out this season. And we are getting to the point where every position counts, every lap counts, every point counts, as if it didn't already. This is massive here. Palmer starting on pole, race day 2nd, GSR Edwin 3rd, Lancey in 4th. Good result for Lancey. Reimer, little bit further behind, but in 5th place nonetheless. There's your possible race strategy, lap 15 to 16 for soft to medium. Now, I will say this. Of the qualifying times that we saw today, Cali Robb was the only guy in excess of 2 laps on his soft tires in which he set his personal best lap. He's actually on 5-lap-old soft tires. Everybody else, 1 lap or 2 laps. Now, this track isn't high on degradation, but these guys on the soft tires are going to be very good for a couple of laps here, and then are going to be very not so good once the going gets thick here, and once we really start getting into the meat and potatoes of this Grand Prix. But it is Palmer on the outside, race day on the inside. Lancey has failed to find his grid box correctly. Palmer angled a little bit over to the inside. You can kind of see he's pointed to the inside looking for the best route into the Senna S's. Those first couple of corners, a very difficult section of track this. as we are just about ready to go. And now, the lights are turning on here in Sao Paulo. Once again, Division 1, welcome back to Brazil, and we are off. Got Palmer immediately across to the inside. He will get ahead of Race Day by the time they get in towards the corner. Edwin's going to try it on the bottom. He won't be able to get there on Race Day. Reimer actually a little bit of contact there with Edwin as they go down the hill through the Senna S's as they exit Curva do Sol, which is this one here, and down the straight. Reimer's going to pull way to the inside. Lancey's going to have a peek at the outside. Lancey has lost a spot in the start. Chuck blazing around the outside of Sweet in towards do Lago, and around the outside. He will not be able to stay within track limits. That spot will be given back. Cali Rob now to the inside, and Cali Rob's going to try to send it. He forces Chuck blazing into the grass. Thankfully, no damage done to either car. That was nearly poor already. Fire up flow to the inside of Cali Rob. He's made that one happen, but we do have a yellow flag at the back. I do believe it is the Ferrari of Travis Scott has gone around. It is not lit for Travis Scott. The only thing that might be lit is this tires. Not the point. Going in through Bico de Paco, the Ducks Peak corner. Fire up flow around the outside of Cali Rob through turn 11. This is a very sketchy part of the track. It goes side by side with. That car naturally wants to push to the outside with how the, not necessarily banking, the camber drops away from you on the outside there. But it is going to be Got Palmer leading the first lap of this Grand Prix. DRS will be activated, and they will have it going down Reta Aposta this time. Probably poor Portuguese there. Palmer nearly loses the car on the way into turn 1. He had a bit of a wiggle, and Race Day is going to be right up against him here. Edwin may have a good camera angle of this. Let's watch him. 0.3 of a second for Edwin, back to the 2. Race Day's going to try the inside. Palmer doesn't look like he's going to be able to defend, not with having his energy store charging for the time being. Race Day 2016, new leader. If we look at the positions gained and lost, Race Day now up the 1. Reimer got around Lancey at the start, nearly got Edwin as well. In fairness, it was good defense from the Mercedes, and, well, it was a little bit of contact. Oh, that was nearly bad there. I think Reimer almost got into the back end of Edwin once more. Lancey might be able to have a look here. I don't think he's going to be quite close enough just yet. But we do have the Haas of Gunner on his way into the pit lane. Thankfully for him, he would have only lost the 1 spot. It does appear to be Cali Rob and Shariah Coleslaw side by side, and once again, going through turn 11. Now, it's a bit of a sketchy part of the track once again to go side by side like that, but they've made it happen. Oh, that's a slide and a spin for Fire Up Flow. Exiting Jun Chao turn 12, and I'm afraid he's going to be tumbling down the order rather quickly. Lap 17 to 26 is the window for medium to hard. Of course, the medium tires will be the favorite of the compounds available, and it probably will last quite long. Cali Rob still to the inside of Shariah Coleslaw, or vice versa. Still there now on the inside of Curva do Sol, and it looks as if, well, who's going to get the DRS here? It may not even be Shariah Coleslaw. No, it is. All 3 of these cars have it. Nicky 64 now trying it on the inside, potentially, of Cali Rob. He's not really going to be able to stick his nose in there on the inside on his way in towards do Lago this time, but maybe we'll be able to have it going up through Ferradura and up through the rest of what is now Sector 2. Looking around the outside, not going to have it. He's going to have to tuck back in line here. No way. Are you going to try something? Oh! Shariah Coleslaw! I believe that was purely error on his part. He locked up the brakes going into the corner. That back end of the car very quickly, very sharply, went away from the Alpine there. He has lost at least 1 or 2 spots. Race Day still leads Palmer half a second as they make their way through Jun Chao through what is now turn 13 to 14. There's only some of these I'm saying because I only know very limited Portuguese, and what I do know of this is not very good. But Race Day leads them down the pit straight, heading into the S13, as it's known. Edwin, will he have a look to Palmer on the inside? Not quite. Not going to be close enough this time. Reimer as well to Edwin. Not really close enough. However, what we do have is Nicky 64 around the outside of Cali Rob, or vice versa. And I'd say what, that probably was a halfway decent move there. Despite Cali Rob being on the mediums, Nicky 64 charging actually +5 since the off here. That's a good way to be. Exiting do Lago up the hill now through Sector 2. Let's see. I doubt anybody's going to really challenge through here. It's a very difficult uphill couple of corners, this. That car, again, really wants to push to the outside. If you take too much of that curb on the way up the hill, that car will spin round as you go into the exit. And, well, I'm going to assume we're going to see some error there today. I could be wrong, but then again, it is... This track is deceptively difficult, It appears to be a very, straightforward track. Not a lot of ridiculously tough moments. Of course, you got down the hill through turns 1, 2, and 3. That is not easy. The rest of Sector, 1 heading into 2, the beginning of 2 at least, do Lago, not really that difficult of a corner. You only got to really worry at track limits on the outside. It's almost as if... turn 10 at Austria is what I compare it to, just kind of the other way around. Up the hill, the rest of Sector 2 is actually kind of slow. It's not as difficult as the beginning of Sector 3, but it's Palmer around the outside of Race Day. Race Day doesn't have DRS. He's going to be taken by Edwin as well to the inside, and look at that. So the Red Bull... Oh, and Race Day's actually going to go out of line here. And now Reimer's going to go up to third. Race Day's going to be under a lot of pressure from Lancey here, going up through Sector 2. This is one of the most difficult parts of the track here, up the hill. And I tell you what, Race Day, I don't know if that was a mistake or if there was contact made, but either way, he doesn't want to have that compound into something else. That would be the last thing that what I am assuming our championship leader wants here. Once again, I say assume. We do not have the lists updated, I'm afraid. Fireflow around the outside at Travis Scott. Is he going to be able to have a look here? Probably not, unless he sends it into Bico de Pato. The Ducks Beak, turn 10. Palmer will lead, entering the 6th lap of the Grand Prix. In the first corner they go, 6.5 tenths of a second. Reimer a little bit closer back to Edwin. It'll be interesting to see. Let's see... Top 5 all in the same tire. Gottlieb Weeb is the current driver who has gone up the most with the soft tire. Goodness me, there's not a correct way to put that sentence, is there? Gottlieb Weeb, the driver on the softs, currently up a lot. Well, currently in 6th. He's the... Fucking hell, there's no way to speak English, is there? Gottlieb Weeb, 6th place. Currently the most successful driver who's gone soft. God damn, even that sounded bad. Anyways, up the hill now, Chuck Blazin trying it round Nicky 64. Potentially, not quite. Nicky's still on those soft tires. It's probably only going to be good for maybe another couple of laps here. Well, we're expecting him to pit rather soon. What I will say is this, that sun is shining now in Sao Paulo. Remember at the beginning of the race, I thought we could have rain. Doesn't really look like that's going to be the case. What is the case is Callie Robb, I think, just got into the back of Chuck Blazin, not even in the good way. And the McLaren nearly went round, but was able to save it. Down the pit straight they go. Palmer leads Edwin, 5 tenths of a second. Reimer closing in behind. I will say this, Reimer, for the time being, I think is actually doing quite well. Of course, Race Day made a mistake, and I mean, he has had some pace on him so far. It has to be said, Reimer is actually pulling some really good times here. Wouldn't be surprised if he's challenging for the win at the end of this. Edwin to the inside. He'll get round Palmer, not without a little bit of contact there on the left side. And once again, new leader, 3rd of the day. So now, the top 4 cars within about half a second of each other here. If we look at the gap to the, 6.5 tenths between the top 4. Lancey about another, just a little bit further behind, but he's also poking his head into this battle. It is going fantastically at the moment here in Sao Paulo. Current fastest lap is held by Reimer, 1:10.146. Next closest is that, I want to say it is actually his, no, not his teammate, it's actually got Palmer, 1:10.257 is the next closest. Down the pit straight they go. Edwin leads Palmer, 3 tenths of a second. I'm not sure Palmer's going to have enough here to be able to try and overtake this time. Reimer's actually going to try to send it on the McLaren down to the inside. Could he look to get both of them? Edwin's almost giving him the room. Reimer's at least going to get the McLaren. Nicely done. And I tell you what, he's going to have DRS yet again. And he's gotten a great launch out of the Senna S's and outside of Curva do Sol. It's going to be a drag race into the 4th corner. Side by side, wheel to wheel. Let's see what happens. Reimer onto the grass. Edwin holds the lead for now. Race Day to the inside of Gott Palmer through Dolago. And for the time being, Race Day actually still there. Not quite clear as Palmer finally does have it. Lancey, I think, doing kind of the correct thing right now, being not necessarily on the outside looking in, but he's definitely, playing this one potentially a little bit more conservatively. I think he probably could have overtaken at least one of these cars by now. I think he's doing well. Save those tires, do as much as you can while you have it. Once again, the top 5. Half a second away from each other. We do have Chuck Blazin trying to get around Nicky 64 again. And I'm assuming this time we're going to start to see Nicky pit here and any of the other runners of the soft, probably within the next couple of laps. Have to wait and see. Nicky diving to the inside. Not going to pit this time. I mean, we don't see any visible signs of wear on the Aston Martin, but in fairness, we don't really see that in this game. Remember the old games, you could see visibly the graining that was happening. Can't see that anymore. Edwin leads Reimer half a second or less, 3 tenths or less. Reimer trying to have a look into Delago, not going to happen. Palmer more or less played defensively against Race Day there. Lancey will not be able to attack. Into the corner as well. Chuck Blazin could not get it. Nicky 64. We do have a yellow flag. It is the Haas of Gunner. Something has gone wrong with him. It doesn't appear... That's the good thing about this Brazilian circuit. Unless you're, in that first sector, you're really not going to hit anything if you spin. The only safety cars are going to happen if we do have, vehicle contact with each other. That results in DNF, unless, of course, again, you're going through that first sector. As again, now we have a yellow flag. Travis Scott seems to have gone round, this time on his way in towards turn 8. But the grid, once again, out of turn 14 and 15. These are turns, as it turns out. And then down the pit straight. Edwin leads Reimer half a second or less. Reimer's still looking for it here, although Reimer has not quite been close enough to overtake Edwin. I will say they're both about dead even on battery. That was a huge snap that time by Edwin. This one could get hairy here. If Reimer gets a good launch out of the corner, it could be all over but the crying for the Mercedes. Reimer's going to tuck in line, and no, he's not going to look for it, not quite yet. It's about a 1/10 of a second, the gap. But I was going to say that the gap between them is about even. Swee and actually Gottney Weeb battling now. Swee is going to have a look to the left side. Gottney Weeb, I'm sure, feeling it now in his soft tires. The Aston Martin, will he have a look around the Williams here? That Williams actually going to push kind of up the circuit there. You saw that going up through turn 6 and 7. The car kind of naturally wanted to migrate to the outside. He's held it together. That car is struggling. He's now 4 seconds behind the top 5. Not looking good for Gottney Weeb. Already about a third of the way through this Grand Prix, and we've had a lot of action so far, and it's not over yet. Not even close. Race Day. Could he potentially have a move at Gott Palmer here? I tell you what, Gott Palmer, not going to say he's a sitting duck, but Reimer is definitely closer to overtaking Edwin than Palmer is to... Well, I was going to say that. Palmer's going to have a good little look here to the inside. He's not going to be close enough to outbreak him, nor is Race Day to Palmer. But still, I tell you what, it is dead even between everybody in the top 5 here. Shout out to Lancey, who is holding on to this battle very well. Of course, I think he might be conserving just a little bit. But if he's able to hold on and make some stops and make some moves before we get to the round of pit stops, that will be golden for the Dutchman. Reimer to the inside does get Edwin. We have a new leader once again. That will be our first, second, third, fourth of the day. 4 drivers out of the current top 5 have all tasted the top spot at least once. That is a fantastic statistic to have. Travis Scott, our first driver of the day, with a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Chuck Blazin within 0.2 of a second. And Callie Robb, not going to be close enough. Swee, very close to Gottney Weeb here. And for the time being, Gottney Weeb is losing anywhere from 2 to 4/10 of a second per lap on those now what I would consider old soft tires. Looking for the pit straight once again. Reimer has successfully put about half a second back to Edwin, but DRS is going to be activated here, and I tell you what, Palmer might be starting to look pretty good. To the back end of Edwin. Yeah, not quite. Race Day to the back end of Palmer. I tell you what, Race Day is definitely trying to put the pressure on the McLaren here. He's gotten quite close. Lancey again. Still kind of just tagging along to this battle, not really playing that much of a key role, but you'll never know. That could change in an instant. And what might change here is a position. Race Day around the outside of Palmer. Is he going to get it? He's going to have to late brake on the outside. Oh, has he kept that in track limits as well? That's fantastic for Race Day. Remember, Race Day once again looking for his second ever Division 1 championship. I believe the first one was the first division we raced on F1 22, this new generation of car that we do have. Well, I say new, it's current generation. We do look at the Division 1 record book. Race Day 2016 did win the title, Season 9. Gott Palmer, remember, reigning champion heading into this. We do have yellow flag. It's the Sauber of Houdini, I think, has gone round. EDA Gott Palmer, reigning champion. Looking for his second championship, that of Race Day. He's only a couple of rounds away from doing just that. Swee around the outside of Gottney Weeb. He's going to make that one, I would say, look easy. That's not necessarily true. That Williams trying to stick it on the inside despite being on those soft tires. And yeah, he's done it. He's held on. And I'm wondering who's actually going to have DRS here. It's going to be the Williams. Edwin has gotten back round Reimer. We've got another lead change here, that being in towards Dolago. Unfortunately, we didn't see it that time because I'm a dumbass. But Edwin is ahead of Reimer. 1/10 and a half, 2/10 at most. And Race Day has gotten around Palmer whilst in that as well. Tell you what, once again, I'm going to say this probably 10 times now, very competitive top 5. Lancey, bit of a slide there coming on acceleration at a turn 9. That one nearly has gone bad for him. I would assume we're kind of getting close to the pit window here. I wouldn't say we're at it yet, but it'll be interesting to see when our drivers decide to make that stop. 4/10, Edwin to Reimer. 2.5, Reimer to Race Day, the teammates. We do have Sui has gotten around Gottney Weave again, this time to the inside. Race Day, 10th, to the inside, looking to take his teammate here. And not quite. I think the last thing that the Red Bull team wants to do right now is battle with each other. Of course, Race Day looking for a championship. Reimer tagging along. Well, that's a bit of a rude way to put it. He's not tagging along in the Constructors' Championship. He is absolutely contributing. But Drivers' Championship at stake with Race Day. Of course, he does, for the time being, sit ahead of Palmer. That is a big gap that we'll have to pay attention to them. Up the hill through Sector 2, Edwin leads Reimer, who leads Race Day, Palmer, and Lancey. Sui now behind by 6.1 seconds. That's right. Remember a couple of laps ago I said Gottney Weeb was losing about 2 to 4 tenths of a second per lap? Yeah, that gap was about 4 seconds back then. Not true anymore. We do have a yellow flag. I believe that was actually going through Turn 10. That was our pack of leaders. What's happened there? We had a temporary yellow flag. I don't know what's happened. Everybody appears to be in the same position in which they were before. False alarm, I guess? Flag happy marshal? I don't know. Could be. Edwin will be the first of the front runners to dive for the pit lane. Reimer will now inherit the lead. Race Day will now have to choose whether to attack his teammate or let it be and simmer with DRS. I think for Race Day right now, might just be keeping DRS and staying ahead of Palmer. Edwin pits. Into the pit lane he goes. He has fit the hard tires. That much is probably predictable. We will have 20 laps to go this or next time by. And now the two Red Bulls within a couple of tenths of each other. Reimer does still stay ahead. Question is, does Race Day get around Reimer, and does Reimer play the team game, or do we see a repeat of Monza where these two genuinely raced it out to a fantastic finish? Either way, we're in for a hell of a show here. Once again, just a couple of laps away from halfway. The time being, looks as if Race Day is backed off Reimer. I'm just wondering, because, you know, both of these guys are on the same tire. I'm just wondering what the strategy is going to be. A double stack screws both of them over. Does Reimer take the hit? Is it Race Day? It is going to be Reimer, and Race Day does stay out. Oh, I was about to say, I thought I saw him following him in. That would not have been good. So Reimer into the pit lane. Travis Scott picks up at 3 seconds for multiple warnings. We're assuming hard tires for the Red Bull on this occasion. I guess correctly. As well into the pit lane is Gottney Weeb. I tell you what, well done to the Willie for staying soft for that amount of time. Wonder how much track position he's gonna lose here. At least a couple of spots. If we look at those who have pit, still yet anyone in the top 7, plus the Willie of Fire Up Flow. Those are the only 8 guys who have yet to stop so far this race. If we though look at the top 7, yeah, they're all still on the medium tires. Gottney Weeb has gone medium. Reimer's gone hard. Nicky had gone to the mediums. Fire Up Flow had gone to the mediums as well. Shariah had also gone medium. Fire Up Flow on his way out of the pit lane now. Once again, just the top 7 cars have yet to pit. Speaking of that, Sui up 4, Cali Rob. This isn't going to matter much. They're in the round of pit stops. 6 seconds of penalty for Travis Scott. It's not going to matter much for the time being. He doesn't want to lose out spot to Houdini, however. The leaders make their way down the pit straight yet again. None of them decide... Well, Lancey does. I was about to say, I thought Lancey had stayed out there. Not the case. So Lancey on his way into the pit lane. We're assuming hards for him as well. Into the box he goes. Yep, hard tires for the V-carb here. Cali Rob has also stopped. In the meantime, we do have Chuck Blaze into the inside of Sui, up to 3rd. Good look there. So now the pair of the McLarens 2nd and 3rd for the time being. Just yet the top 4 cars have yet to stop. Race Day, Palmer, Blazin, and Sui. The gap from Race Day back to Edwin, who would probably be the net lead, is 17 seconds. So we're assuming Race Day probably going to pit this time by, as well as at least one of the two McLarens, and then Sui. The question is will Race Day remain in a competitive enough position to be able to get around Edwin, or perhaps even his teammate? It's 18 seconds back to Reimer, and Race Day has not pit yet. Neither has the McLaren of Palmer. Chuck Blazen's actually fallen off behind either that, or he wasn't that close to begin with. Chuck Blazen into the pit lane, Sui stays out. Question is now, we've got this battle for the lead between the two. What we're looking at is this. Are we in a position where Palmer is going to piggyback the strategy of Race Day? And, that will get Palmer on, say, hey, I'm on an equal level with Race Day. Or Race Day, oh, that's an error for him here. Palmer up to the left side, and he will get around Race Day. That Red Bull had absolutely bottomed out on the curb going through Interlagos, and that is huge error then from Race Day. And into the lead goes Palmer. Not only does into the lead go Palmer, that now makes it his turn to play the strategy game, because as the leader of the Grand Prix, you now have to dictate the strategy for yourself and the cars immediately around you. That, by the way, is his main championship rival of Race Day. That is a huge, huge moment there, because Palmer now has the ability to see, okay, if I pit, will Race Day follow? Will he try to overcut me? And both of them still stay out. Of course, now the gap from Palmer back to Edwin's only 15 seconds. Oh, look at this! Race Day to the inside, back to the lead. All the while, this is helping Edwin and Reimer and Lancey within 20 seconds of the top spot. That is, I believe, less than a pit stop away. So as these two battle for on-track position, that is helping the cars behind. Still yet, just the top three cars have yet to stop. Sweet, Palmer, and Race Day. Nicky 64 and Chuck Blazen side by side with each other. Nicky's going to get around the McLaren through turn one. The question's still at hand. What decision will be made for Gott Palmer on behalf of Race Day? As far as strategy is concerned, we're about at our 20th lap. Could we see them go medium soft? Because we saw some of those guys on the soft tires take them at least 10 to 12 laps, maybe more. So that's a question on my mind, I'd say. They're going to stay out another one here. Palmer and Race Day both decide to stay out once again. I'm thinking these guys are going to try to maybe go in for the softs. Of course, about 20-lap-old medium tires. That will be the case this time by. Probably not the best condition, but they are still racing. They are still turning some decent time. They are still putting time back to Sui. And if they are losing any, it's very minuscule at most. Let's be real. But once again, the gap from the leader of Race Day now back to fourth place of Edwin, who is, in the in the battle for the lead here, potentially the win. Oh, big mistake there for Race Day. Could that allow Palmer in? Not quite. We have a yellow flag exiting Jun Shao. It's Kate Thomas who's gone round. Doesn't appear to have hit anything. The track stays green. The gap now between Race Day and Palmer and that of Edwin is now less than 14 seconds. Edwin will take the net lead of this Grand Prix. Reimer may come out in second. Of course, I will say this. Reimer's actually not really that close behind Edwin. He's outside of DRS range. That is big for Reimer. Let's see. What do our drivers decide to do this time? Race Day does not pit. Palmer's going to look for it here. He'll have the outside. On the way into the Senna S's. McLaren versus Red Bull on the way in. Round the outside, looks to the McLaren. He's not going to be able to outbrake the Red Bull into the corner, and Race Day stays ahead. The question is going to be whether DRS comes into play, and we do see a change in position now. Sweet pits. GSR Edwin up to third, Reimer up to fourth. DRS activated for the McLaren. Race Day covers the line brilliantly then, not going to allow Palmer around the outside or the inside. Interesting decision this. Sui has gone to the soft tires. That is something I was looking out for. You heard me say that we could see them go to the softs. Sui has done that. There is now a third applicable strategy in play. Oh, I say third, a second. Oh, and Race Day loses the car under braking into Jun Shao. And Palmer into the lead, and I tell you what, We saw Race Day have a couple of those moments in the laps leading up. He has still not decided to pit. And oh, by the way, it has gotten woefully gray once again. Could we still be seeing rain? But could that be why they're saying, could we be getting rain? I thought I thought the chance of rain was gone, considering these guys, hadn't come in. The sky had gotten sunny, but no, it has gotten back to gray. Not 50 shades, but gray it definitely is. And could that be bleak potentially for those third on back who have now had to stop aside from the top two? Because if it does rain, these two will only need to stop just the one time. They will keep the position, and by God almighty, they've played it to a T if that's the case. Palmer and Race Day? No. More like Sir David Attenborough. I don't really know what that has to do with weather, but, nature. You know what I mean. Anyways. Once again, just the top two have yet to stop. Positions gained and lost. Nikki 64 up 6. Reimer up the 1. And into the pit lane now is Race Day. This is a massively bold decision here, because if Race Day pits, that tells me we're not going to be getting any rain unless those tires are woefully in the red here. Onto the softs. Edwin comes out ahead. Remember, this is key as well, because Race Day's gone for the softs here. Those tires only peak for maybe 5 to 6 laps, and we've got over 10 left. Race Day's actually going to come out even here with Gottney Weeb. Swee now holds the fastest lap. Gottney Weeb out of the final corner. He's actually not quite going to be close enough. Palmer in the lead. The gap from Palmer, let's see, Race Day fell to 5th. So we can assume it's about a 20-second gap-ish pit time. So that'll put him, roundabout with Race Day still. I don't think Race Day, well, he probably could have gotten the softs up to temperature by now. He is actually starting to close in on Palmer. I think he's really got a pit this time, Palmer, and there he goes. Oh, I don't think he's going to make it. No, he doesn't. Palmer. Tenor, speeding into the pit lane. Wow, that is just not what you wanted to see. I mean, that was visible as well. That'll promote Lancey to 3rd. Actually might come out side by side here. Palmer now, with that 10-second penalty, has got to battle Race Day for position, exiting the pit lane. Going to be side by side nearly. Race Day's not quite going to be close enough. Question is now, do we see Palmer and Race Day actually be at enough of an advantage with these soft tires to, warrant being on them? You know what I mean? Because it feels like they've stayed out way longer than they should have. And will Edwin and Reimer now kind of run away with it? Could be the case. Chuck blazing on Nikki 64 up the hill, heading in towards turn number 7. And not quite going to have a look now. Oh, it's a bit of a slide there for Chuck blazing, but holds on to it. Through Bico de Pato. Through turn 11. Heading through in towards Junshao. Chuck blazing still half a second behind Nikki 64, around about 4/10. Palmer's actually going to get round Lancey round the outside. Race Day now holds the fastest lap. We'll go back along with the battle here, not to mention the Aston Martin Asui. Oh, Chuck Blazing's round the outside. And the McLaren has gotten ahead of Nikki 64. Now up to 8th. DRS Shirley going to be in play. Race Day 2016 to the inside of Lancey. Is he going to be able to have it on the softs? Yes, he will. And we have a yellow flag. Nikki 64 is retired, and the safety car is on track. Oh, and he's binned it right in the straight as well. Could he have made contact with either Chuck Blazin or Swee to set that one alight? It very much could have been. That is a very odd portion of the track to have gone off. Wow, that is not what you want to see here with just about 10 laps to go. Game changer. Just opening Discord now, trying to see if Nicky puts anything in. Meanwhile, Edwin in, Reimer in, soft tire surely for all of them. Palmer, I would expect him to try to come in as well, maybe get rid of that tenor. No, stays out. Race Day also stays out. Lancey as well stays out. Gottney Weeb, Callie Robb actually then decides to come in. Oh, God almighty, that was almost terrible. Anyway, Palmer will rejoin the circuit still in first place, albeit with a 10-second penalty. Race Day second, Lancey third, Gottney Weeb fourth, Edwin fifth. Reimer is going to drop down to sixth. Callie Robb will be seventh. It appears it will be Chuck Blazin in eighth, Swee in ninth, Shariah 10th, Dusty Lusky 11th, Fire Up Flow maybe 12th, maybe 13th, depending on Travis Scott. It will be 12th. Travis Scott will be 13th, 14th will be Kate Thomas, 15th Gunner, and 16th Houdini. We started with 17, we are down to 16. Oh, by the way, at the line this time, 10 laps to go. This is now, I mean, we thought this was an interesting and intense Grand Prix before this. We are now in for a hell of a show, if we weren't already. I think the question is now, it's very interesting here because you got Palmer and you've got Race Day, who are both on used soft tires, you know, at this point. They do have to go 10 more laps here on this set of tire. Of course, you know, they're going to have at least 2 laps here, maybe 3 under safety car. That'll be helpful. You've also got Lancey, 9-lap-old hards behind. Gottney Weeb, 10, 11-lap-old mediums behind. But then you've got Edwin, Reimer, Callie Robb, all on fresh, soft rubber. Palmer and Race Day better not get off to any shenanigans here, because if they do, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 immediately quick guys breathing down the back of their necks. Once again, well, actually, maybe has Nicky64 streamed this event? I can go along and maybe have a look at what has plagued him here, because, again, it was a very odd, what do you call it here? It wasn't, it's interesting because, again, very odd part of the track to have gone off. We'll have a look here. Potentially, I don't know, the app is not helping me at the moment.
Oh, shit.
Oh, sorry, apologize for that. He is not live right now. Oh, yes, he is. Let's have a look at what has taken him out of the Grand Prix. This was lap 20. Remember, he had just been overtaken by... Let's see, it was lap 22 heading to 23. He had just been overtaken by Chuck Blazin into the first corner. Out of turn 2, out of turn 3. Curva del Sol. Down, he's going to the inside of Chuck Blazin. No, wasn't this time. It must have been the next time by. 24, we're assuming. Because at that point there, he is still alive and breathing. Heading now down the hill. 24. Turn 1, turn 2. This is turn 3. Behind Chuck Blazin. He's going to try to the outside. Well, it wasn't then either. Must have been a couple of laps later. I don't know. What lap did he crash on? 26?
Fuck you.
Apologies for that. Gonna make him do community service now. That must have been here. I apologize for having this taken so long. I'm trying to look through the stream. This is
No, not anymore.
exiting Curva del Sol. Oh, that's so unfortunate. What's happened there is Chuck Blazin went to defend the inside. Nicky had gone to the right side trying to switch back around to the out, and he had completely lost the car on his own. That is as unfortunate as it gets.
No, not anymore.
Well, here we go. Reimer, a 10-second penalty for a collision with Edwin. Green flag back in the air. Race Day is going to have a look around the outside. Oh, side by side. Race Day couldn't quite get it. Lancey now in position. The question is, Reimer again. A penalty for Edwin. I'm sorry, we didn't see what happened there. I was trying to investigate on the Nicky 64 DNF. Race Day around the outside. Couldn't quite get a look. Edwin to the inside of Reimer. Side by side. Reimer now around the outside of the Mercedes. This is absolutely, remind you, Reimer could have potentially won this Grand Prix. Instead, he has now got a tenner to his name. Could it get taken off? Whoa! Outbreaks! Oh, contact there! Edwin's gone around. Reimer went way to the inside of Gottlieb. I think Edwin, did he get tapped from behind? Not too sure, but he has absolutely fallen down the order now, all the way down to 15th. The battle now is between Race Day on the fresh soft tires, Lancey on the old hards. Does Palmer hold up Race Day? Does the Dutchman get a win here in Division 1? It's absolutely possible. The last time Lancey won a race, I'm not even sure it's ever happened, to tell you the truth. Season 10, Season 9, no, never has. Lancey has never won a Division 1 Grand Prix. Could today be his day? At the moment, he's about a second behind. Quote from Nicky64 in Discord: Chuck, just hold your line and let me pass you when we are doing that. I have the overspeed. Let me decide where to put my car. You just drive. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just saying in the future, if we're leapfrogging, don't pull out of line. So Nicky, I guess, upset there with Chuck. You know, again, though, it's one of those things that it's like Nicky had to react. Yeah, it's nobody's fault there, I think, realistically. Chuck has tried to defend the inside. Nicky wanted to take him there. Chuck went down to the left. Nicky tried to have a peek back to the right, and I think snapped the car on his own. That's pretty much what's happened. Reimer's going to try to send it around the outside of Lancey here. Coming to the line now. 6 laps to go. Reimer's gotten around Lancey. Race Day still battling with Palmer, and once again, Palmer on a clear-cut 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I think what Race Day's going to do here is just going to bottom feed off of Palmer's DRS, because he is, for the time being, 2 seconds ahead of his teammate. Not to mention, once again, we do have a genuine battle for the 2 additional podium positions. Lancey, Callie Robb, Gottney Weeb. 2 of those 3 drivers will have a podium position. 1 of them will not. Race Day will almost certainly have the win here. Reimer, unless he believes he can get that tenner taken off. We have a yellow flag. Chuck Blazin's gone around. I think maybe as he lost the car. Yet doesn't appear that he has any damage. Not too sure. But the line this time will be 5 laps to go. Oh, a bit of a slide there for Lancey. Can Callie Robb have a look? Callie Robb now chooses the inside. Can he have a look? Of course he'll have a look. To the inside, and the Ferrari gets up to 4th. Now looking for 2nd place. Race Day to the inside of Palmer. He'll get the spot. Will not have DRS here at Race Day. It will be Palmer's. McLaren will have the outside. Race Day all the way down nearly into the grass. Side by side in towards Dolago. And Race Day is going to stay ahead of Palmer only just. A bit overtake at the back. Cake Thomas and Travis Scott side by side. Cake's gotten around the Ferrari this time. Chuck Blazin's going to get around Gunner. 4 laps to go. Race day leads Palmer by half a second. Palmer on a clear-cut tenner for speeding to the pit lane. Reimer, we're not really sure what's happened with him. He had a tenner for a collision with Edwin. And that's about all we know. Fire up Flo around the outside of Shariah Coleslaw or vice versa. This will be the inside through Curva do Sol, and he will get the spot. Could he potentially attack both Sui and maybe even his teammate ahead for that 6th position? Oh, Sui is, well, he's gone quite late on the brakes there. I thought he was going to go straight on it, and he's kept it under control. Up through Sector 2 now. Remember, the battle for 2nd and then 3rd place. Callie Robb, who's looking like he's on his way to 2nd. Lancey, who's looking like he's on his way to 3rd. He's got to defend from Gottney Weeb for the time being. If we look at tires once again, 17-lap-old mediums to 16-lap-old hards. You know who might be a candidate for a podium here? Sui. Half a second away, fresh softs. Well, I say fresh softs, about 7 laps old, but realistically on race pace, only about 3. And Lancey, oh, and he's got a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. He'll try it around the outside of the V-carb of Glancy. It is that of Gottney Weeb. Sui's going to have a look as well. Sui, does he stay within position to have one on Gottney Weeb into the corner? Not quite. 3 laps to go here. Once again, Sui looking for the 3rd position. Lancey will fall back the order now. Fire up Flo will have a look at Lancey here, potentially heading into Curva do Sol. Sorry, do Lago. Fire up Flo around the outside. He's going to push way deep into the braking zone, and Lancey's going to keep it. And Shariah's going to get to the inside of Fire up Flo. Those two have been battling quite a lot so far today. Edwin is kind of in a bit of a difficult position here. He's got 2 cars side by side ahead of him with nowhere to go, and Dusty Lusky charging behind. It'll be interesting to see where we all come out with penalties applied after. Callie Robb will, for this time, take 2nd, unless Reimer can get his tenner removed. That is the million-dollar question. Again, we don't know what happened under safety car there. Two laps to go. Race day versus Palmer. Palmer to the inside, looking to spoil the party for race day. And he has, for the time being, gotten the Red Bull. Sui on Gottney Weeb looking for the 3rd and final podium position. He's got to get round the Willie first. 0.2 of a second. Race day to Palmer. Not going to try for this one. Not yet. Callie Robb looking on for 2nd. He's got a 4-second gap back to Gottney Weeb. Gottney Weeb's going to push a little bit wide. Sui's going to have a look, but he's not quite close enough. To the back end of the Williams, once again, not quite close enough to make something happen. Travis Scott within 0.4 on Kate Thomas at the line this time. We'll have the final lap of the Grand Prix. Palmer will certainly be falling back quite a ways. So will Reimer. Callie Robb looks like he'll have 2nd. The battle is currently for 3rd. Gottney Weeb has Sui by about 0.3 of a second. Lancey in the picture, Shariah in the picture. Callie Robb has gotten around Reimer genuinely on pace then. He is up to 3rd. Race Day has gotten around Palmer. They're side by side. Race Day looking to win the Grand Prix on merit. Palmer looking to spoil the party of Race Day, and who could be an impending champion in a couple of weeks' time. Trying it around the outside. Got Palmer. Does he have it? Kind of. Yes. Sui, in the process, is going to get around Gottney Weeb for 5th, and what will eventually be the 3rd step on the podium. Huge for Sui. But now the battle behind. Gottney Weeb, will he have a look up the inside? Will Lancey potentially spoil this party as well? Race day, 0.6 of a second back to Palmer. Callie Robb. Oh, by the way, Callie Robb on race day here for what potentially could also be the win if he's able to get round the Red Bull. We do have a yellow flag at the back. It's the McLaren of Chuck Blazen or something has gone round. Out of Jun Chow, and now heading for the pit straight. Palmer ahead, and ahead by far. The question is, can Callie Robb find a look at race day? Here they go! Go into the pit straight here to the line. It's going to be race day, winning the Brazilian Grand Prix. Callie Robb gets 2nd, and at the line, Sui has Gottney Weeb far behind. Sui claims a podium. Gotney Weeb will come home 4th. Shariah 5th. Dusty Lusky 6th. Fireflow 7th. Palmer has DNF'd. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. He's left the session. What a fantastic end to that Brazilian Grand Prix. Race day claims his first win since Monza 4 rounds ago. 3 rounds remaining in the season. Montreal, Quebec, Canada next time out. Suzuka for the penultimate round, and Coda to round out a 13th Division 1 season. For Hotspot, thank you for joining us. It has been, as I drop my controller on the floor, it has been an absolute pleasure joining you here once more in Division 1. We'll see you next time.